I'm very excited to be here today to talk a little bit, as Sirte said, about how to build customer satisfaction and how to exceed customer expectations through creating commitment in your staff. So we talk about fun masters. At Linnanma, all our staff members are masters at creating fun for themselves, for each other, and for, of course, our guests. I've been the CEO of Linnanma Amusement Park for the past 7 years, but I started my career actually in the hotel industry, and I was working in different five-star hotels. There we go. Working at different five-star hotels because I always wanted to work at places where you exceeded customer expectations. And of course that was done. And as I was so enthusiastic and excited about my job, I would go to my bosses with great ideas about how to improve customer service or how to improve operations. But time and time again, my bosses would tell me, oh, it was not my job to think. There were smarter people doing that. And if I wasn't happy with the way that my job was, then of course I could go somewhere else. So I got discouraged and of course then stopped giving that many great suggestions. And as my career progressed, I actually was able to find a place where I decided I'm going to go out and try to build a culture with the staff to make sure that they would be involved, that they could actually exceed customer expectations, they could participate and give good ideas, and I promised I was going to listen. And then we, of course, wanted to make sure that we exceeded customer expectations. And after having built the culture together with my team for many years, I actually heard about the Great Place to Work measuring system, and I entered our Manor Spa into that, and we were actually the first hotel, the first spa, the first restaurant that was able to get on the Great Place to Work list. So we were doing something right. Well, now for the past 7 years, I've been at Linnanma Amusement Park, and again here, together with our staff, we have tried to build the best possible workplace, and we have also done a lot of jobs with the culture. And a few years ago, I entered Linnanma as well into the Great Place to Work measuring system. And at this point, we are the first amusement park in Finland, but also the third amusement park in the world, as far as I know, that have been on the Great Place to Work list. So I want to tell you a little bit about what we're doing with culture, both what I've done before and here now at Linnanma, to kind of give you an idea of what could be done. So, but before that, a few words about Linnanma. Linnanma has been around for 70 years. We're in the city center of Helsinki. We're the biggest tourist attraction in Finland. We have about 1.2 million visitors annually. And what's really special about Linnanma, though, as Sirte said, is that we're a foundation. We have 6 children's welfare organizations that we gather funds for to make sure that they are given out to children's welfare. And our mission is still to gather funds for children's welfare through operating the park. So this is a very strong mission. It's very important for Hola staff to do something meaningful. What I now want to tell you a little bit is what we're doing, how we get the success through the Fun Master commitment. I believe that you have to do at least 3 things. You have to build an inspiring company culture. You have to have a shared, very strong and clear strategy. And then after that, you have to make sure that you do coaching leadership. And the reason you do these things is to make sure that you tell people how you approach your goals, where you're headed, and then make sure that your staff actually want to take you there. Because just because your staff knows where you're going doesn't mean that they actually want to take you there. So I'm going to talk a little bit about these 3 approaches. So to start off with the inspiring company culture, it's not just what you do, it's about how you do it. When you have staff come to work, as I was when I was working in the hospitality industry, and you're all excited, and then if you feel that your employer is putting you down, if they put spikes on your way, if they're kind of not listening to you, making you feel valuable, then you feel like you're walking along a gray spiked carpet, and it's very hard to lift yourself up and after that actually to give exceptionally good customer service. So how do you treat your most important customers? You roll out the red carpet for them. You tell them that you've expected them to come, you're very happy that they're there, and that's what we want to tell our staff. We roll out a red carpet and we tell them that they're VIPs. We do that literally. We have red carpets in all our staff areas. When we have company parties, as in this picture, we rolled out a red carpet. But more than that, it's a symbolic gesture. I think the wheel of success for creating a workplace fun being is that first you have to believe and put an emphasis on your customers. You have to believe in your fun masters. You have to make the main goal to create work well-being. But not every person can be a fun master, so you really have to know it, what type of values you're looking for in the people that you recruit. For example, at Linnanma, we find that it's very important that everyone is a team player. So the way we do that at recruiting is that when people come for interviews, while they're waiting to get into the interview, we have them seated at round tables with Lego bricks on the tables, and we tell them, while you're waiting, why don't you build a future future amusement ride out of the Lego bricks? And only looking at them for 5 minutes, you can tell who the team players are. Who is actually taking initiative, who's starting to build, who's sitting back and letting everybody else do their job, who is not listening to anybody else's opinions. So in order to get the right type of people for your organization, you need to know what questions to ask. Well, once we figure out what we need to ask and who we want to recruit, then it's important that when the right people come to your company, is that you actually put an emphasis on the right type of leadership. We want to have coaching leadership, we want to help people succeed, and we want to make them feel good every day at their jobs. And once we've done these things, I believe that fun masters should be enthusiastic and happy at work, and only then will they be willing to give the best possible service and exceed customer expectations, as well as they want your company to succeed. And only then will the customers be really happy, and they will come again and again, and when they come again and again and spend money in the park, that's where the company succeeds. And with success, there's even more funds to put an effort into developing the park, as well as then to put money on the work fun being and develop that. And so the circle goes around. Another way to look at how to create value from work well-being, in Finnish, työ hyvinvointi in Linnanma language, is to look at the Gary Hamel pyramid. What he says that in its simplest form, when staff come to work, they may obediently come to work at a certain time, they get paid a certain amount of money, but they may not give anything more. If you motivate them a little bit more, they may actually be diligent and, on the third level, bring in their intellect. But while people are on this level, they are still not creating any type of competitive advantage, because if you do what you've always done, you get what you've always gotten. So what you actually want to do is motivate people further and want them to give their initiative, give their great ideas, to suggest, to create something new, and then in the end be really passionate about their job. Once you do these things, when you have people actually creating something new, that's where the competitive advantage comes in. And it goes without saying that the more people you have on the top level of the pyramid, the more productive the organization will also be. Well, of course, we don't want just me being on top of the pyramid, all alone, all passionate. What we actually do is we turn the pyramid around, and we want everyone to feel passionate about their work. So how do we do that? We ask questions. We ask people, what makes this company, would make it even better place to work? What would create passion for you? What do you tell your friends about your job? What needs to change for you to really passionately believe in what we do? And along all these questions, of course, we try to find the answers together. Also, though, if you want people to participate, it's really important that also is how you portray the organization and the organizational chart. If you tell people that you want their involvement, but then you show them a box on the organizational chart where they're all the way below all the other boxes, it's very hard for people to actually then have the courage to give out good suggestions. When I started at Linnanma, when I saw the organizational chart that looked pretty much like this, I asked, well, where's the seasonal staff? We have 650 people who meet our customers every day in the park. Where are they? And they drew me a box and said, okay, this is where the seasonal staff is. I said, well, great. Now I'm going to go in front of the staff and tell them you're really, really important. This is where you're at in our organization. So instead of doing the hierarchy, what we're doing at Linnanma is we have a heart-shaped park. We're the most well-loved amusement park in Finland. And what we're saying is every department is equally important. Every person is needed for us to be successful. We do not need hierarchy for that. And another way we portray it is also a roller coaster train where we all travel together, where seasonal staff are up front in the train. They lead the train because they're the ones meeting up with customers every day. And then our permanent staff sit in the center, supporting everyone who rides ahead. And also what's important for us is to have our board of directors as well as the supervisory board along for the ride. because it's really, really important that we get their commitment and they're along for the same ride. So when you develop a culture, it's important that you know the culture, the target culture. So you have the permanent culture, and then you have to think of what type of target culture you're looking at. And you know some cultural strengths that you have in your culture is first you have the strengths need to be moved to the target culture as well, because the good ideas need to go forward. At the same time, you also have some weaknesses in the culture. Those you cannot transfer over to the target culture. And then you have some culture strengths that you need to develop as well, and those need to be moved on towards the target culture. So know what you're aiming for before you start developing that. Secondly, talking about the strategy. And oftentimes I hear that for strategy, people say that it doesn't need to be shared with the permanent staff. It doesn't need to be shared because it's only for the board and the management directors. But if you don't know where you're going, you will never reach your goal. And another way of putting it, you may have heard the story about John F. Kennedy visiting the NASA Space Center in the 60s, and he was walking along, and at that point, he saw a man with a broom sweeping the floor, and he asked this man, "What is your position?" And he said, "My job is to take a man to the moon." So it's different if you're talking about if you need to go to the moon or if you're just sweeping the floor. So people need to understand what they're doing and why. At Linnanma, we have a one-pager strategy that is easily understood by all. And just showing you a quick overview of the way we're thinking about it is that you have one roller coaster ride, which is 1 year. And what's really important, it all starts with our fund masters walking on a red carpet, coming to work. You have our strong, strong values that keep the coaster up ahead. You have 5 selected customer target groups where we circle around. We need to remind ourselves every day that we're doing this for the customer. We have 5 strategy strengths that we believe that by developing these is how we get ahead. We have a roller coaster ride where we all ride together. We have to keep measuring our success. We have to measure both the productivity and the money, as well as then we need to measure also the work satisfaction and the products we're selling. And even though we travel safely around the coaster, every one of us, every now and then, needs to go up on the high tower, looking at the big picture and understanding why we're doing these things. And of course, we have the 6 children's welfare organizations always along for the picture. And then thirdly, I think success needs to have good coaching leadership, because even if you have a good culture and you have a strong strategy, if the everyday leadership is not good, people will not be committed to your cause. And I think the coaching leadership needs to be at least fair, it needs to be planned, and it needs to be goal-oriented. Oftentimes you think that good leadership, for it to be fair, needs to be equal, and everybody needs to get the same. But equalizing is not fair, because people are different and they need different types of support. So actually what I'm saying is that customizing is fair. You need to know your people, you need to know how they need to know what people need in order to be able to support them along the way. Secondly, also in terms of leadership, it's really important that you know how you spend your time. And what we say at Linnanma is if you have 50% of your time should be spent on leadership if you're a leader. That means that all the time cannot be spent on operational work. So you have to also be able to spend your time also doing the leadership as well as then developing yourself. And since we have a lot of young leaders, what we've done is we have a leadership wheel of entertainment. So we have the mission is in the center, reminding our leaders that this is what we're doing. We have our values that fill up every day. We have to lead by our values. We do a balancing act between making sure that we have always the work well-being has to be in balance with the efficiency. And then we divide our time into knowing your team, knowing the individual, doing the operational work, as well as showing the big picture. And even though we have a very set model on how to lead, what we also tell our fund masters, though, is that it's up to them to come to work with the right attitude. So it's not just for the leaders, it's for every one of us to be a good team member and making sure that we're successful. And thirdly, the coaching leadership must be goal-oriented. You have to know where you're going. And going back to the wheel of success, since we say that staff satisfaction is important, we have to measure that, of course. We also measure customer satisfaction development, of course, and we measure it by NPS, where the scale is from -100 to +100 recommendation index, and anything above 40 is quite good. We've been above 80 the whole time, which shows that we've been able to, with staff satisfaction, to actually influence the guest satisfaction. Also, then we measure, of course, the visitor increase numbers and the revenue, looking at how the revenue increases when you put an effort on the staff. Here with the green, you see what COVID did to us last year with visitor numbers and revenues dropping 50%. But please, I'd like to point out that even though we dropped in revenue and visitor numbers, we were able to increase our staff satisfaction as well as guest satisfaction numbers. So in conclusion, what I really wanted to tell you is that if you want your staff commitment, you have to make sure that you have a culture that is inspiring and that gets everybody involved. You want to have a clear shared strategy so people understand what the goals of your company are, and then you have to put an emphasis on very good coaching leadership. But even though you do all these things right, what's even more important is to remember how you make people feel along the way. So every step of the way, every encounter that you do with your staff, they're all meaningful because they build trust, and with trust you get commitment, and with commitment you get success for your company. Thank you very much.